Hey guys, Earl here with CSI, bringing you another episode of The Breakdown. In today's episode, we're going to go over a job that was particularly difficult in the shower. So, let me set it up for you. We have a limestone shower that has a lot of mold, and we got a call because people were complaining that there's a lot of cracks in the shower and that there was ants, very particular. And so, for them, they wanted the shower cleaned, the mold removed, and all the gaps and cracks sealed so that the ants wouldn't come through there. Now, I don't know why there was ants in the shower or in the house. It's a new house to them. I don't know anything about the history of the house with insects and ants and stuff like that. And quite frankly, I don't know much about ants. So that's a setup of how we got the call. So we go in there and we clean the shower, remove, apply the mold treatments. Shower was very molded over, probably from poor ventilation. So typically, when we see showers with poor ventilation, we see mold, and you have all the elements in there. It's 70 degrees typically in a home. Then you have water, food source, which is typically soap and your skin, all the stuff that comes off your body, the dead skin, and poor ventilation really, and not cleaning the shower after using it is typically what we see when we see a shower that's heavily molded. In this particular case, the limestone is a pitted limestone. It's kind of textured, and so all those little grooves in the limestone become like kind of like craters and allows for that mold to really grab on there. So in this case particularly, we had two challenges. One was getting the mold off, but another thing is that when we went to caulk the shower, the wrong caulk was applied. And let me explain that a little bit. So when cleaning these showers, some of the challenges we face in cleaning them and caulking them is that sometimes when we cut caulk lines, water and moisture is still trapped in there in the base pan of the shower. And so not very often, but sometimes we get to the end of our workday and we still can't apply the caulk because the shower perimeter is wet. And so what ends up happening is that we'll have to leave a fan in there to kind of dry it out and come back, a day or two, or sometimes even 3 days later. So if you're getting a service, or if you're gonna do this kind of work yourself, where you wanna freshen up your shower, clean it, and remove your caulk line, if possible, and you have multiple showers in the home, probably want to not use that shower for 3-4 days before doing so, because what will happen is you'll clean it and you'll cut out your caulk lines, and when you're ready to apply your caulk, if there is moisture present, that caulk as it's applied will it won't even stick to it. It'll just kind of peel right off, and you'll get frustrated trying to go back and forth, trying to push it back in, and nothing's happening. And it's happened to me very early on when I started caulking showers. And so save yourself the aggravation. If you can, don't use the shower for 3-4 days before you do this. So let me continue on with the story. So we get this in clean, restore the bench seat, grind hole and polish the bench seat, and one of the ledges by the glass. And the customer doesn't like the caulk color. We typically carry 4 standard colors, and we typically use what's readily available at Home Depot, which is 4 standard colors of caulk for tub and shower, kitchen and bath, which is clear, white, almond, and a light gray. Why is that though? So typically we offer those 4 colors as their standard offerings, because no matter where we work, there's always a Home Depot within 20 minutes typically. And you get to a job and let's say you ran out of material, it's easy to get the exact same product you were using to complete the job. There are a wide array of caulk types, and caulk colors out there, like sanded, grout, sanded caulk, grout caulk, it's called. They call it epoxy caulk, which is truly epoxy grout. There's a lot of, my point is there's a lot of different options out there. And for me, the standard of caulking in a shower has always been silicone. That holds up the best. And I like to go with whatever's readily available. And typically with the big box stores, the closest thing you're going to have is like a Home Depot. They have more stores in more areas. And so even if you're doing it yourself, and a lot of times when we do have customers who want a very specific color, we just tell them, we send them links to places where they can get it from, and they can order it themselves. And typically that stuff arrives, 2 to 4 days to your home. And within the frame of accepting the job and scheduling us to come out there, we normally tell them, okay, you want to do this work, move forward, great. The caulk you like, go ahead and order it. And we'll schedule on around the time that you're going to get that caulking so that you get the exact same color that you want. So anyhow, back to the story. We get done molding, all the mold comes off, we apply mold treatments. This thing is ready to be sealed, for the whole nine. And the technician on job was having a hard time drying the shower for some reason. It was just holding moisture in the grout lines. And so the job extended over. Now, when he got to the point where he can actually show the client a sample of the caulk line, the client didn't like the color. So typically what we do is I do one little line so you can see what it'll look like before you caulk all your seams, because that is a lot of work to remove if you don't like the color. So customer didn't like the color. We do the standard thing we normally do is run out to Home Depot and find something that's, gonna go with your color profile the way you want it. And for reasons I don't understand, actually, let me take that back. I kind of do understand. Our technician did it to appease the client for color, and when in the caulk section, he picked something that was rated for interior and exterior, right? So what he ended up getting was a construction adhesive, a Loctite, that the color on it is a dark gray. So for him, he showed a little sample of that gray. Customer liked that color, and it is rated for interior, exterior, so it's meant to, get wet and deal with elements. However, the customer, he does the whole job, gets done with it. And then the customer was asking, like, okay, which color did he use? Because we want to have some in the event that we got to replace, redo the caulk later or do a little touch-up piece. And so he tells them what it is and takes a picture, and that they could buy it at Home Depot and stuff like that. So the customer was upset because the bottle read construction adhesive, and it was by Loctite. It was a premium product. And I guess I can't blame him, Ultimately, I came out there to take a look at the job. The caulk line was good. The job was great. And the customer did not like that there was construction adhesive in the shower, which, it's kind of one of those things where, is it wrong? It's not specifically for a shower. However, it is rated for indoor, outdoor. Is it going to be fine in a shower? Yes. Is it, what's spec'd out to be in a shower? No. And so at the end of the day, to make a long story short, he wanted it removed and he wanted silicone placed in the shower. So here's where the segment of what I really wanted to go over was. If you find yourself in a situation of doing caulking, take a blade, cut into the caulk. Typically what's in the shower is silicone, and you could typically run a blade through there and cut into it fairly easily. and pull out the middle part, the caulking, like pull the strip out. And then past that, it's the cleanup of what's behind there that's very time consuming. Well, when we went to go remove this Loctite from the shower, it's not budging. And I'll tell you what, that their premium Loctite adhesive, construction adhesive, is exactly what it says it does. That thing is very hard. I ran through blades. I mean, I could not get this thing to move at all. And so I had to use a premium aerosol stripper to kind of soften it, right? It didn't liquefy it. It just softened it enough so that I can push my blade into this to remove it. And basically, to give you perspective, a line this big of caulk, imagine a caulk line like that, I had applied the stripper close to 8 to 10 times per line just to soften it to a point where I can get a blade and start removing it. So if the thickness of the caulk, let's just say, for example, like this thick, it wasn't all coming off. I had to take it off in layers. And it was brutally painful. I would say about almost 4 days worth, 3.5 days worth of work just to undo Loctite in the shower. So why am I sharing this? Because not everything goes as accordingly as planned on jobs. Things happen, and our guy made an error in judgment to put this stuff in the shower, in which case we have to correct it and restore it back to what it was prior to us applying this product. The whole point of this is, if you're in a shower, look, if our guys who work on this every day can make that error in judgment, it can happen to a homeowner or somebody, let's say you're a handy guy, or maybe you're a homeowner, you just bought a house and you want to freshen up your shower. If you find yourself trying to cut into what you think is caulking and it's not budging with a blade, chances are it's not caulk, it's something else. In this particular case, it was construction adhesive. Had he used any other kind of caulk, acrylic, whatnot, life would have been 100 times easier. But in this particular case, he went with construction adhesive because of the color grade that it gave, which is what the client was trying to achieve. Anyhow, sorry about that rant. This is very disheartening for me, as I was very involved in this project to remove the construction adhesive. And so I really wanted to share this one and kind of share like some things that happen on a job. And I don't know, I was just very upset by the whole thing because we don't, I typically write our scopes of work and spec in the products that we use. And our technician who did this job, he didn't do it, for any other reason than to appease the customer for a color. And so when I spoke to him about this job, he was disheartened, he was upset, he was, he just didn't know how to deal with it because he just wanted to make the customer happy. And what's even crazier, and it's probably the best part of this story, is that the original job was set on a Monday. This guy came into work on a Sunday and went to 2 or 3 different, the tile shop and things like that, to find colors for this customer because he wanted to make sure he had what he needed and that the customer was going to be happy with the color of caulk that he presented. And so to go through all that, do this job, leave the job, go to a Home Depot and try to find this color to make someone happy over the color, not the job. All it was is the color of the caulking that they were not happy with, which is what led to this whole ordeal. And so I know he didn't do it with any malicious intent, with any bad intentions. He generally did it to make someone happy for his job and sometimes, when you go outside of what you're supposed to make someone happy, you end up taking the beating for it. And unfortunately, I was one of the guys that took a beating to remove this stuff. So, point is, I had to, if you're watching this video from a perspective of you got something like this too, and I like sharing these because I run into trouble situations. What I had to do to remove this thing is apply an aerosol stripper about 10 times and keep blading it out, and then go behind it with a stripper again with our vapor steamer. I'll show you a video of that here. So our vapor steamer is an industrial vapor steamer that heats up right around 330 degrees. Takes about 30 minutes to heat up to that point, but once you heat up to that point, you got about 3-4 hours of pure steam coming out of this thing. So even the stripper and the steam wasn't enough to move this. Oh, and by the way, totally forgot. Prior to doing all this, I put a heat gun on it because in the bottle it says to remove, use a heat gun and scrape it off. The heat gun did not budge any of this stuff. And I'm assuming that, some of the stuff online about using a heat gun to remove construction adhesive is if you get a little bit on this corner right here and you just got to scrape it off. I think it would possibly work for that. And that's what the intention of it was. But I don't think that, in fact, I know for sure that when removing a full bead of this construction adhesive, the heat gun is not going to move it. And if it were to be able to do it, it would probably take me twice as long with a heat gun, in which case it wasn't even doing anything. It wasn't even getting it soft enough for me to cut into it. And I had a pretty good heat gun. I had it set at like 1800 watts or something. I mean, almost to the 2000 watts of its capacity. So anyhow, wanted to share this one with you. Not everything is a happy ending. However, at the end it will be. So now let's get past to the part of I actually removed all the construction adhesive and show the customer, in which case he saw I removed everything out of there and he was okay with that. So now it's onward to putting the silicone in there that should have been in there to begin with, because to give you a perspective on a shower this size, to remove silicone caulk for somebody who does it regularly, take you about 2.5 hours. All the perimeter base, all the vertical seams, and all the way around. Takes about 2.5 hours to cut out the caulk and then clean up the old residue from the caulk and prep it and dry it to a point where it's ready for new caulking to be applied. So if you've never removed caulk, it'll probably take you longer than that. So, but if you do it every day like we do, we see showers every day. It takes us about 2 hours, 2.5 hours to remove this amount of caulk from a shower this size. So, anyhow, moral of the story, we have certain products that we use within our service line and product line to assure certain results. And though the intention was good to make this customer happy, it ended up being a nightmare. And this is typically, a shower like this is a 1-day job, roughly about 8 hours. So now we're going on 5 days on this job to complete it and deliver the original service that we should have. And had he just used a silicone-based caulk and the customer wasn't happy, we could have cut all this caulking out in 2.5 hours and then reapplied a new caulk. But instead we're in the situation. So, if you're doing a project, think first, plan first. Definitely do your research, use the right products. If you're not going to be happy with something, think about the aftermath of having to remove it, what that's going to entail. Make sure you have a contingency plan for that, because it's easy to put something on. It's not necessarily easy to remove it. So for us, for you, for everyone out there watching this video, think about it first. I mean, this one definitely was a kick in the pants, but ultimately we stand behind our work, and that's who we are. And so, our goal is to always make things right. Anyway, that was another episode of The Breakdown. Again, my name is Earl. Thank you for watching this video. Like it, subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.